missing so much music! I mean, it's great, but I can't keep up, man. Yeah, it's been a minute since I've done New Music Friday now. I've sort of fallen out of the loop. Obviously, I do my best to keep New Music Friday running on a bi-weekly schedule, but it happened to fall on the weekend that I was in Nashville, which was an amazing experience, but obviously couldn't really work on much content while I was down there. Then the week after that was a John Party album, so that kind of took top priority as well. But here we are, back in style, looking slicker than a snicker. You'd think we never left, but boy, as I mentioned in the intro, there's ever a lot of music to go over here. Simply because of how much music there is to go over, I'm probably going to end up splitting this video into 2 parts. This video being part 1, aka the thumbs down and decent category, so I'm not calling everything in this video the worst. I kind of clickbaited you, but get played. And then part 2 will be the thumbs up category, or the best songs from the last several weeks. It's just, looking at this list of songs to go over, realistically, this is not all getting crammed into one video, unless I just blow through each one in a matter of seconds, but who would want that? Quick reminder, in the description you can find links to my Instagram, Discord, podcast, as well as my Patreon too, if you'd like to support me financially. All of that is down below if you want to check any of it out. There will be timestamps in the description and on the time bar of the video in case you want to just bounce around to some specific songs. Feel welcome to do that. Otherwise, there's no sense wasting more time. I've got a knot in my back that's kind of annoying me. I don't know what's going on there. This mountain of music won't review itself, so we're going to dive right in with the thumbs down category. Songs I did not like and would not particularly recommend. It's surprisingly slim for how many songs I have lined up here, the first of which being the new Walker Hayes song, That Dog Was Hunting. Despite the fact I think this song had a deceptive amount of potential, good golly is there just so much wrong with it. First things first, album cover. What is this? It's like some weird Minecraft Mario inspired album cover in the style of a Nintendo Pokemon game. I mean, I get the aim of the game for Walker is to stand out at all costs, and although my current little rant here is proving his tactics successful, it doesn't make the album cover any better. But now to the song. It's exactly what I expected. It's this insanely bloated mix of dusty acoustic guitars and synth lines. Percussively, it is driven by a clap track and an insane amount of rim shots. And of course, to get that patented Walker Hayes sound, everything is compressed to the point that it feels like your head is going to explode if you're listening with earbuds. And of course, that brutal 808 just spilling into the rest of the mix like a busted oil pipe in the ocean. And then of course, the icing on top, the plastic floating on the surface while the disaster takes place at depth, is Walker's whispering, sing, rap vocals over some corny dad tier lyrics. It really is about as Walker Hayes as you can possibly get. But like I said, what bothers me the most is that I think if you gave this song to someone else, it could have been really good. Like imagine if someone like Dierks Bentley or Parker McCollum gave this song a go. I think it could be a great song to get a crowd moving, because despite how awful the polished product may sound here, at its core, it has a really upbeat rhythm, fun guitar line in the bass. The chorus is really catchy, I must admit. I could see it being a real crowd pleaser if it was done by anyone but Walker Hayes, because with Walker comes his brand of fancy-like production with the 808s and every other problem I already mentioned, but it also comes with his whispery vocals, which are very effective in some cases, but on a song like this, you need energy, you need fun, but it sounds like Walker recorded his vocal next to a sleeping baby, but then produced the instrumental in the middle of a crowd at Coachella. I've spent too long on this song. Moral of the story, I think it could have been a real hit, and maybe it still will be, because who knows, it's Walker Hayes. But goodness gracious, is the final product ever a disaster. Enough of that though. It's time to move on to a song that, although is better than the Walker cut, not by a massive stretch. After all, we're still in the thumbs down category, and the song I'm talking about is a new collaboration between Kenny Chesney and Old Dominion, A Beer With My Friends. Right now I really need a beer with my friends. I've been a big fan of recent Kenny Chesney. I've loved a lot of his newer singles. I think his last 2 albums were both really solid projects, but I just can't get on board with this new one. My main problem with the song is just how uninspired it feels. Lyrically, this is every life's tough, so I'm gonna go drink a beer with my buddies song. It just doesn't have anything really unique about it, and on top of that, I think the production is way too in your face. Rather than feeling like an open invitation to join them in having a good time, the song is the musical equivalent of some drunk dude screaming in your face to have fun. All the instruments are just so loud. Rather than finding a nice balance, it just sounds like each layer is trying to be louder than the others. I just think there's so many better versions of this exact song out there that I'd rather listen to. It just feels like a really sad attempt at an end of summer hit from 2 huge label named acts. Amazingly, that's it for the thumbs down category. It's time to move on to decent songs I wasn't head over heels for, but don't necessarily have an issue with. they're decent. And the first decent on today's list may be controversial, but it is the new Zach Bryan song, Burn, Burn, Burn.
Everyone seems a damn genius lately.
Now, I can already see the army of 25-year-old men coming at me for not being helplessly in love with everything Zach Bryan releases, but truth be told, I think this new one from Zach is just alright. I think my main issue with the song is that it just feels unnecessarily repetitive. Melodically and rhythmically, each lyric is just like the last, and I think that repetition is only exaggerated by the fact that the bulk of these lyrics are just checklist, I want this, I want to be like this, I want my future to look like this, etc. And I just don't think it makes for anything particularly special. I think the instrumental is sufficient. I think the intro is really pretty with the subtle steel additions, but the rest is just okay. Also, towards the back half, when Zach really starts just screaming along, I've always loved how passionate Zach's vocals are, and especially on American Heartbreak, I think there's loads of moments that are really brought to their fullest because of Zach's reckless, careless vocal inflections, but here it just feels out of place. The instrumental is still the same really chill folk loop, and I think the fact that the instrumental doesn't really build with the vocals, it just creates a big disconnect between the two. Again, I think it's alright. I can see why people may enjoy it, but it's not what I'm going to be going back to a whole lot. Next up in the decent category is a surprising face. One that doesn't make it all the way up here very often. It's Niko Moon's new song, I Can't Wait to Love You.
I can't wait to hear your laugh. I can't wait.
Niko Moon has almost become this scapegoat for douchey trap country, and although I'm not defending his music whatsoever, although I'm not trying to say he didn't bring it upon himself, I think that aura around him made this new song that much more refreshing to hear. The whole track is acoustic. Thankfully, there's no overbearing percussion. It's just a simple picking tune that puts the spotlight on the vocals, which is fittingly a duet between Niko and his wife Anna, or Anna. The two are obviously expecting a child at some point in the future, and this song is like a love letter to the kid, the gist being how they can't wait to love this child when he or she is born. Lyrically, although it's nothing crazy or poetic, I don't think it needs to be. I think the song is fittingly simplistic, the melody is very pretty. I've always been a fan of the tone of Niko's voice, even if I have not liked his music much. It's very raspy, it sounds very weathered and aged, and although he doesn't have the most impressive range, he stays within his strengths really well and takes advantage of the benefits of that raspy voice. I've always thought he sounds like a really sanded down version of like Louis Armstrong. They both almost have like a gargly texture, like they haven't cleared their throat yet. I'm not saying they're the same, but if you take Louis Armstrong and continuously sand down his voice, somewhere in between the average voice and Louis is where Niko lies in my mind.
Of people going by, I won't miss a thing.
I think it sounds even better when you give him the spotlight on a song as simple and gentle as this one. Overall, it's a decent cut. Following that is the brand new one from Blake Shelton, Nobody.
Don't wanna scoot the boots of nobody.
Right away, even though it's obviously fake, I love that Blake brought back the mullet for the promotion of this song. In general, all the Western 90s images and aesthetics I think are a nice touch. They definitely made me giggle a little, and it's not like the song here is trying to make a mockery of that. This song isn't trying to do anything but get your butt out of your seat and start dancing around, and honestly, it does a pretty good job of that. Although I think the instrumental runs a little basic at times, especially since there's not much evolution over the course of the song, the gist of the instrumental is a great time. This simple, rocking, guitar-driven sound with a heavy downbeat. I like that Blake stays in his lower register vocally. I think it allows him to come off as seductive and flirty as he wants to. Overall, I just think the song could have used a little more, whether that be a bigger change for the bridge, or just generally some growth instrumentally as the song wore on. I think there was some space to fill, but as is, I think it's a pretty darn decent honky-tonk feel-good song, and I would still recommend it if you haven't checked it out already. However, I'm also interested to see, like, is this going to be a one-off, or is Blake going to go through a little season of dressing up like 90s Blake again? Maybe he's got some hot country nights thing coming down the pipe soon, who knows? Then there's the new Kip Moore song, If I Was Your Lover.
If I was your lover in this life for another year,
This song definitely wasn't what I was expecting from a Kip Moore song, and I mean, I definitely wasn't expecting the strange music video that came along with it, starring Morgan Wade, who many of you are probably familiar with. Her debut album, Reckless, was my album of the year, yada yada yada. I don't know if the video is supposed to mean anything. Honestly, it just feels kind of awkward, just Kip and Morgan rubbing each other's shoulders for a few minutes, but that's besides the point. The song itself is decent. Again, not what I was expecting from Kip, this very gentle, inoffensive, smooth pop country song, and very much in this dream pop lane that we've seen artists like Ernest and Kane Brown find quite a bit of success with. I don't think the song is anything crazy. In fact, my thoughts on it are quite minimal. I just think it's a decent inoffensive, smooth pop country love song that Kip sounds alright on, but it doesn't have any wowing factors per se. Next on the list, I've got the new Bailey Zimmerman track, Where It Ends.
You're the last thing that I thought I'd lose.
I've been a big supporter of Bailey Zimmerman throughout his recent rise, and although I don't think this song is a dud or anything like that, I don't think it really competes with his other big-time singles, Fall in Love as well as Rock in a Hard Place. Where It Ends is just another rebellious punk country rock song with Bailey singing about a failing relationship, and I think that's the issue, is the fact that it's not showing a new angle to Bailey, and not that every song has to be wildly different, but I don't think Where It Ends is doing anything Fall in Love or Rock in a Hard Place didn't already do better, and I just think the two songs are better overall. It honestly boils down to personal preference at that point, since the songs are all sort of beating on the same drum, so check it out if you haven't already, because it still is a very good, decent song. Then I've got the latest release from Dustin Lynch, this one titled Wood on the Fire. Straight out of the gates, I really like the direction the song was trending with the very spacious, open-ended sound, with the reverb guitars and cymbal fills. It sounded like we were headed for some mountain-style music, but I should have remembered it is Dustin Lynch. Not that it goes steeply downhill, but I think the song progressively gets more and more standard as you go further and further into the track. That's not to say it's bad by any stretch, I still think it's a pretty decent tune, but it just feels very safe for Dustin at this point, like another song about getting back with a girl despite both of them knowing it's wrong, and they keep throwing wood on the fire. Instrumentally, it still feels very reminiscent of the Blue in the Sky era, which I guess we're still in. I mean, the album was just earlier this year, and he's still adding songs to it, but the musical textures and lyrical concepts feel very in line with that album. I wouldn't be surprised if this new one was just like a leftover that didn't make the final track list. Next up is the latest from Clayton Mullen, this one, Wishing on an Airplane.
You asked me what I wished for.
Obviously, I'm still riding the Clayton Mullen high from Love Goes, which remains a hefty contender for my favorite song of the year so far. Clayton is another one of these younger guys that has started gaining some traction with a friendly balance of traditional country mixed in with some college youth and pop influence. Think Connor Smith, who I will actually be talking about very soon. But yeah, this new one from Clayton is pretty good. Nothing crazy, just an easy on the ears tune reminiscing on young love and wondering where it all went wrong. In general, I'd say I feel very impartial towards this one. It's decent. Then I guess it's probably fitting to talk about the man I just mentioned, Connor Smith, and his new one, Orange and White.
Now I got a Georgia girl singing rock guitar.
Before I even get to the song though, I must admit, hearing these songs about college sports and the entire culture surrounding that makes me feel so distant and unable to relate. Like, you know, these artists can go around singing about farms and rural life and small towns and water, and I get all that, but these college pride anthems and songs dedicated to high school sports, I just don't get it. Like, I get it, but I can't relate to it. Like, you guys in the States go crazy for education level sports. Your college teams have full-on stadiums. Heck, your high schools might even have stadiums. I don't know. You want to know what I saw on my way down to Nashville? There's two things that relate to this. One, on our way down to Nashville, we saw a billboard, which is already weird because in Canada there's no billboards on the side of the highways. You just enjoy the nature. But there was a billboard advertising that at the next exit, there was a high school sports Hall of Fame.
Oh, what now?
Like, at that point, you're paying money to go look at pictures of children, which is definitely sus and illegal in many contexts, but it's like, bro, they literally are kids. Why do y'all care so much? Because then number two, when we got to Nashville, we were unwinding after a busy day, turned the TV on, and would you believe it? There was high school sports being broadcast on television. Now, first of all, that's crazy because I always forget you guys go back to school a month before we do in Canada. But it was being broadcast on television! They had commentators, film crews, the football teams had as many players as my school had students, the coaches got headsets on and everything. Like, it's intense. I just wonder how you get into that. Like, imagine being a commentator for high school football. How do you explain that when it comes up to someone you're just meeting? Like, oh, so what do you do for a living? Oh, I sit in a chair from a distance and watch kids discussing their every move with another middle-aged dude. Like, that is crazy. Imagine the pressure on 15-year-olds to produce. No thank you. Imagine that. You're a 15-year-old child playing a game. You drop the ball, and suddenly you got a fat old man harassing you in a grocery store for being a disgrace to the lineage of the county or something. I just couldn't get over the facilities and the uniforms and everything. Like, how much money goes into these programs? Like, do you want to know how that stuff works in Canada? When I was in grade 10, they picked the senior boys basketball team based on how many uniforms we had. That determined the number of players on our roster. Now, I played soccer, which granted nobody cares about anywhere, but that's what I did, and you'd have a shirt that said number 6, and your shorts said like number 18 because they were missing pairs, they hadn't been washed since last year's team. Heck, the only thing provided for you that was new was the socks. When there's a high school football game in Canada, do you know how many people show up? Maybe 30. My high school had 4 sets of bleachers, 5 rows, and you could probably seat about 10 people in each row, 15 if you crammed in. You could probably easily show up and have half of a bleacher set to yourself. Heck, homecoming! Do you know what homecoming is in Canada? An excuse to let your teacher take the class out for the final period. And you stand outside, the girls take pictures with all sorts of bedazzled faces, they do the little like, they give you one of these, and like... But as soon as the bell rings, everyone just gets on the bus and goes home. The football game's still on. In fact, they probably haven't even reached halftime yet. But by the time it's 2:35, you probably have about 37 parents sitting there watching, and that's it. No one really cares. Heck, even college sports don't do a whole lot better. Granted, they have nicer facilities and whatnot because they tank every soul there into generational debt to get an undergrad in gender studies, but still, despite the fancy track going around your soccer field and whatnot, nobody really ever comes out to watch. I mean, more than high school, but McMaster University is not going to pack in an entire stadium for a football game. That's what the Hamilton Tiger Cats are for. They're in the same city, so heck, why not just go watch the pros? And bonus, it's the CFL, and we all know that's like 10 times better than the NFL will ever be. The only sport we truly care about up here is hockey, but still, you're not pulling up early to make sure you get a seat for a high school hockey game. In fact, you're probably wishing there were more people around you to keep you warm while you freeze your butt off watching some really crappy mullets and pedo stashes play really aggressive, dirty hockey because no one cares about the outcome. It's high school. Gosh, this really has evolved into a full-blown rant. It's just always amazed me how much Americans care about sports at an educational level. Not to say it's bad. I mean, it's kind of dope. It'd be cool watching my high school team play basketball in a sold-out arena, but it just doesn't make sense to me why anyone would do that in the first place. Like, unless you're a parent or a friend, just watch the pros. I mean, I guess money maybe stuff's expensive, but I don't know. Like, my point is, I struggle to relate to these songs about college sports, so maybe I just don't appreciate it enough, but I still think the Connor Smith song is just decent. Obviously, there's all the drama with him and Meg Moroney, which I will also eventually get to, because everyone and their mother's son-in-law dropped a song in these last few weeks, but yeah, all that sport rant to say, new Connor Smith song is decent, even if I can't relate. Speak of the devil, what a fitting time to talk about the new Megan Moroney single, Tennessee Orange. Now, first off, I will say, in my books, this is a thumbs up, but it just makes way more sense to discuss it now coming off of the Connor Smith song because really in the grand scheme of things, they're a package deal. I don't mean to be the big gossip, but word on the street, as in literally the lyrics of these songs, there seems to be quite a bit of overlap, and they were released like a week apart or on the same day or something. Both songs are talking about how the girl's dad wouldn't be happy with the guy. Both mention the girl learning the words to Rocky Top. Both songs talk about the girl wearing the guy's hat, and both are obviously titled after and about the colors of the Tennessee football team. A Roll Tide, I guess. I don't think that's the right school. So I just Googled it. I guess Rocky Top is the Tennessee equivalent to Roll Tide, which is Alabama. I don't really know. Forgive me, I'm just a little Canadian boy making YouTube videos in the only heated room of our igloo. I gotta feed the polar bear soon, give me a break. I've done too much rambling. This video has gone off the rails. The song, Tennessee Orange by Megan Moroney. I think it's a really strong track. I personally prefer it to Orange and White. I just think sonically it's more my taste with the softer delivery. Megan has an absolutely beautiful voice. The abundance of slide is so pretty and adds a lot in the transitions. And I just think the lyrics come across a lot sweeter and more clever. Saying how this guy, aka Connor, isn't from where she's from, but he still feels like home to her. It's little lyrics like that that add a lot to the song over time. I just think it's incredibly strong and definitely earned a thumbs up. Again, it's only here because it's so closely tied to Orange and White that I had to discuss the two together. I think that is all for the thumbs down and the decent category. Yes, my list is done. This video is incredibly long, and there's another one I still have to record and do. Let me know what you thought of these songs in the comments below. Be sure to drop your opinions. Love to get some discussion going on down there. As I mentioned earlier, links to my Instagram, Discord, and podcast can be found in the description, as well as a link to my Patreon if you would like to donate. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, a like really does help me out. If you're new, maybe consider subscribing for more country music content. There is a lot coming on the way, as I said. The Roundup, the Kane Brown, some other things that I'm working on. There's a lot of stuff coming. Be excited. But wrapping this up because the video is already so long. Until next time, I hope you all have a great day.